The Kimwolf botnet broke the world record for the largest distributed denial of service attack in internet history, peaking up to 31.4 terabits per second. But what is Kimwolf? What insane sorcery was brewed up by this cybercriminal organization to break this record back in 2025? We know that it's a botnet to start, a malicious technology that'll take over and mutate your device into a bot to serve its evil bidding. And that purpose can be a variety of different attacks like DDoS, as we mentioned, sending spam, or scraping the data from the infected device itself, or it can even serve as ransomware to people who want their sensitive information back. So how does Kimwolf specifically infiltrate our internal networks? Well, it starts off by scanning the internet for these weak, misconfigured residential proxies. And now I'll admit, I'm a learning man. This video and this entire channel's purpose is to kind of learn and explore these different fields and make content about it, to engage and be more involved in this world. So I had no idea what a residential proxy was. So that's what we're going to talk about, because I did a little bit of research in it and I found it pretty interesting. And it's also, very important to understand Kimwolf. A residential proxy is a tool that provides anonymity to a user on the internet. It does this by masking the original IP address of that user and uses a different person's, like a random real IP address, as sort of a disguise. And it uses the real IP address so it can avoid any sort of website blocks that a website would have towards, say, an IP address from a certain known server, like that people connect to with a VPN. So I thought it was pretty funny to learn about, because I am ignorant to the ethics of this. So what I understood was that Mr. Joey from freaking South Dakota can be using Felipe from San Diego's IP address to go to any site that he wants to, and the site's going to think that's Felipe, but it's not going to know that it's Joey because of that residential proxy. I admit, I kind of doubt the ethics of residential proxies. If you know something that I don't, which I am 100% certain is the case, let me know, because to me, this just sounds like I have an opportunity to get a lot of my friends in trouble. Anyways, back to Kimwolf. That is the purpose of this video. The residential proxies that the botnet was specifically scanning for was misconfigured in such a way that it would allow external traffic to be sent back into the internal network, which, how do you mess that up? What could be hosting these misconfigured proxies, and why are they so weak to just, that just seems like such a big glaring vulnerability. How do you let that get by in whatever service or product you are offering? Well, I emphasized product because I know the answer. You probably do too, and you're just watching for funsies, or maybe you don't. It turns out that the vast majority of the Kimwolf cases all centered around these cheap Android TV boxes. These boxes are advertised to be fully loaded with a bunch of unofficial software that would provide easy access to any sort of media you wish to consume. And these boxes would mostly just need residential proxies to be able to bypass geo restriction laws. But then the main issue here is that businesses are businesses, and businesses are going to do what businesses do, and that's to make money. And sometimes they make money with no concern over customer security. I was talking to a professor about this instance, and he was telling me how Walmart was selling these really cheap budget routers that were just so easy to exploit, and they did not care. They never recalled the routers. They only just stopped selling them because it probably reached the end of life cycle for that product. And so similarly, with these Android TV boxes being made quickly and cheaply, these residential proxies are mostly just being overlooked. Even though they're not configured correctly with a glaring vulnerability that we see the impact that this one vulnerability has, they were still being sold and sold, and I think they're still being sold because once a customer buys it, it's not the business's problem anymore, it's up to the customer. So there's an unaware dad out there that sees this cool piece of tech, an Android TV box. You can watch any movie, whenever, wherever you want. They're gonna buy that, plug it into their house, but then unbeknownst to him, the big bad Kimwolf shows up on his door and blows down his house. I just found this to be a really interesting topic to explore. I really enjoyed learning about how Kimwolf, the mechanics of Kimwolf, how it actually worked. At the start, a majority of these words sounded like a completely foreign language that just twisted my brain in all the wrong places. But after enough time learning, reading, and ChatGPTing, I trudged through it, and I think I came out on top. I think I got a good understanding of what this is. But as I sat accomplished on my chair in Starbucks, ready to finalize my transcript or my script, I started to wonder, where does the fault lie with all of this, with all of these instances? I'm sure every incident is going to be very particular and different depending on the circumstances, but maybe in all of these cases, cyber criminals are most at fault. Which is true, but we're living in a day and age where we're aware of all of the threats that come towards our data and our devices. I'm sure people who don't even really know what cybersecurity and cyber threat vectors are, they know somewhat that hacking exists. I knew that when I was 10 years old and my friend got DDoSed playing CSGO because he called somebody a bad word. So I'm sure that we accept that it's just going to be an inevitable life of force to have somebody out there try to benefit off of that, mostly at the expense of innocent random people. So I'm sure everybody agrees that cyber criminals equal bad. They are most at fault for these type of things. They are most responsible for all of these configurations and applications of attacks. But then we also know that there's the manufacturers out there and the businesses that don't care so much for security. We can accept those as another inevitable force of life once again, benefiting at the expense of us. So I'd say it's up to you and just everybody out there, the average Joe, to be able to take care of your data. Everybody, I think, needs to be somewhat informed, at least very fundamentally, on what to do and best practices and understanding some of the mechanics at play with all of these things, because a lot of people don't really know. To me, it seemed like common sense that you want to make sure something is all right before you plug it into your internal network. Even before I knew Kimwolf, I'm like, I'm not going to really trust any old technological device out there. I was like that until I started learning just a little bit about how exploitable things can be. But then what's crazy is that I hear these stories from some of my professors and professionals out there of fully grown adults working at these high-end, high-stakes fields of work, doing the most idiotic activities possible that can compromise literally everything because they don't know how to take care of these devices. It's kind of funny because the more and more I learn about cybersecurity, the more and more I'm filled with this existential dread of how poorly I took care of my own devices growing up. So I was wondering, why is there no push for stronger education on information technology in, say, like schools? Because when I was a kid, I had a device. I had access to the worldwide internet since I was probably 8 years old with an iPad. God knows what 8-year-old me put out there, because I don't know, but maybe little Jim Bob over in Alaska knows everything about my life, and he's watching me through this webcam right now. And what I also thought was pretty funny is that I'm learning more about this IT field now in college. But even then, I have some courses related to this. It's mostly self-studying that I'm doing to be able to actually figure out what's happening in this world. So yeah, that was like a little reflective yap at the end of that I just kind of spiraled from learning about one instance of technological mishap, I guess, with Kimwolf. God knows how many is out there. Maybe every single instance out there is going to be something like this. I don't know, but I'm going to keep learning, and I'll be sharing my findings here. If you guys would like to join, then join. You know, I'm going to be posting stuff. If you enjoyed the video, thank you. I'm glad you did, and I'll catch you next time.